When is it good to come to Energylandia? We're right under it now, specifically under Hyperion. Well, and we have to answer this question. When is it really worth coming? And here I can already say at the outset that it depends really. It depends on quite a few factors. I'll list all these factors first and then we'll go into detail because it's very important after all. Because everyone has to pay for a ticket, let's say about 200 zlotys. So, I want to make the most of as many attractions as possible, right? Considering I've been coming here for 4 years. So year by year I managed to optimize these trips of mine. So it's just year by year to record as much as possible in as few days as possible. And I can tell you that I simply manage and that I don't really feel like there are queues in Energylandia at all anyway. Seriously, I don't feel it practically. So let's start from the beginning. At the very start, we need to identify the date when you really want to go. If you want to go, between April and the 22nd of June. Now is a good time to go to New Zealand because there are practically no queues. In April, well, it will be everywhere will be empty because hardly anyone goes in April. There's a bit more people. Definitely avoid the long May weekend because that's a time when it's just not worth traveling, but it won't be super bad either. Honestly, the worst part really is, well, in the high season, which I will talk more about shortly. In June, it's relatively okay. But, well, Children's Day, that can also be a date that, well, here the date a bit of a hindrance, meaning any date that's free and so on also affects the queues here in England. So, various holidays here can really interfere. However, after the 22nd of June, practically until the end of August, there's still a bit of September left. That's when it's best to avoid coming to Energylandia because then it just gets really a lot of queues and honestly, it's just not worth it. Especially weekends, right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, those are the days. Yes, the dates when it's not worth going. If you do choose to go during peak season, then choose. Then, start of the week, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday are rather not. However, really, vacations are usually but these lines are just long, aren't they? There's no denying it. Just even talk more. Later from September, then practically closing Energylandia depends when it lasts. Let's say until November, or maybe even touching on January somewhat. It's also worth a visit, but who really goes to Energylandia in January? September is a great time to visit, but there are still quite long queues. But in October, on the other hand, it's really phenomenal, and the weathers are even warm. So, this is also a date to keep in mind. Essentially, a few things are important. First of all, whether it's the low season or the high season. Secondly, the day of the week. That's also very important. Thirdly, the weather. If it turns out that, for example, during peak season the weather will be rain, storm and so on, then, most people won't come, right? The question is, what kind of rain it will be. If it only drizzles for a moment, I don't know, half an hour, then it's really nothing, right? If there's a storm for a moment, they'll shut down the attraction, but they can turn it back on, right? If it doesn't bother anyone, I was also in a storm once and in the rain. It was cool too. I don't know, for about an hour it rained heavily, but then it was cloudy. It wasn't exactly super warm because of the humidity, but it was still worth coming. So it all really depends. And another thing is when you arrive, let's say you don't have much choice, can't just pick comfortably, I don't know, want to come on a holiday or during peak season. Let's say even a weekend, I'll tell you right away how you can deal with avoiding long lines, because there are ways to do that too.
Another important thing is not to waste any more time.
On the locker, because if it's everyone heads straight for the locker right there by Hyperion, but unfortunately it's usually very crowded, so it's just not worth waiting there. When the water zone is open, it's worth taking a walk here, because this is where, there are stalls with a locker and you can buy a small cabinet there. You don't have to put things there, you can you can go somewhere else, right? But just buy a little cabinet and move on. So this can save a lot of time, even walk 10 minutes, right? Because here practically no one comes straight to the water zone, because everyone goes to that Hyperion and buys those bands there. We're heading to Energyland when there are just a lot of people, which means in some kind of high season, or also Saturday, Sunday, Friday. But we need to pay attention to the signs, which are placed in every zone. These signs inform us about about the estimated time, how long we have to wait for an attraction. But remember, this time might differ a bit. In practice, we find the if it says 10 minutes, it could last sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. That's really how it all depends on how that timer exactly works, right? Also very easy, because it might show 10, but it turns out it's around 7 minutes, or it might show 10, but turns out it's 15 minutes. So it really, because it varies a lot, but roughly you can take a look, calculate how long you'll just have to wait. And as I mentioned, such boards are everywhere. Is free Stag next to Squid Wally, next to Formula, next to Dragon Castle, next to Hyperion. They're still around somewhere, just can't remember exactly now, because you know the park is pretty big. But you just have to pay attention to this board. It tends to change a lot, doesn't it? So if you haven't been to Venezuela many times yet, but you won't find the pattern. Like when the park opens, first off, everyone should have Hyperion, so Hyperion will last for 20-30 minutes or even an hour, right? Even so, but for instance, they won't go for Abyssus, so it's best to go for Abyssus or Zadra first, isn't it? Skip the initial attractions. RMF Dragon also starts with, well, a rework. Just like the formula, because everyone there simply runs. Just like Maya, right? And the speed water coaster too, if the weather is warm, because if not, it'll just be less enjoyable. Volunteers, because no one wants to get wet, right? And finally, apart from the sign, it's also worth using an app. In the mobile app, you'll find a map. But also, actually, since 2023, I believe it's been available, that you can also check how long you have to wait for attractions. However, I'm not sure if there is a bigger delay between updating this data, so I really can't tell you because I've never used the app, didn't need to. However, everything or if you want, you can really use it too. Or maps for better navigation around the park, because the key is to move around the park efficiently, if it could be done without numbers. So you can go through the attractions without just standing and waiting in lines. Me too. I'm here too. You know, been just for 4 years, but I'm still learning something like, for example, RNF Dragon and Formula. Well, they're mostly crowded throughout the day, but by the end of the day, there's just less, for example. Since they are practically in the center of the park. And that's really it. I hope this content was comprehensive, that it gave you a clear view of how things look when it's simply worth coming, and I think you'll be going there soon too, and you can see my next videos. For example, not when you're supposed to arrive at Energyland, but what you should see there, as I have many different videos. So, until next time and bye.